In 1985, the best investor of our time, Warren Buffett, gave his first television interview ever. In this video, I'm going to share the highlights from his investing philosophy to his approach to investing. There are a lot of great insights to draw from the interview, so make sure to watch right to the end. Let's get into it.
But when I spoke with him last fall in his office in Omaha, he very characteristically made his investment style seem so perfectly simple.
The first rule in investment is don't lose. And the second rule in investment is don't forget the first rule, and that's all the rules there are.
Warren's aversion to making a loss has to do with the steep hill to climb getting out. For example, if a stock loses 10% and it subsequently climbs 10%, you are only at 99%. Getting out of a loss position is harder than getting into one. Preserving your capital should be your number one priority when investing, as the alternative hinders your ability to generate long-term returns. Protecting your downside.
I mean, if you buy things for far below what they're worth and you buy a group of them, you basically don't lose money.
There are two parts to Warren's reply here. First is to buy stocks for far below what they're worth, and the second is to buy a group of them. On the first point, Warren is talking about the intrinsic value of a stock versus the price it trades for on the exchange. If the intrinsic value, or the true value of the underlying company, is greater than the current stock price, this is what he looks for when he makes an investment. Basically, the market is ignoring the true value of the company. It's like if I put this $20 bill inside an envelope and the stock market was only selling this for $15. Warren would buy this envelope knowing that the market should correct over time back to its true value of $20. The second part of this reply was to buy many of such stocks. Diversification is a key part of investing, as if one company doesn't perform, you have others to pick up the slack. Buffett is basically saying to not have all of your eggs in one basket. If that basket has a hole, your portfolio is doomed to fail. Looking at Berkshire Hathaway today, they hold 46 companies, so he's well diversified.
Warren, what do you consider the most important quality for an investment manager?
It's a temperamental quality, not an intellectual quality. You don't need tons of IQ in this business. I mean, you have to have enough IQ to get from here to downtown Omaha, but you do not have to be able to play three-dimensional chess or be in the top leagues in terms of bridge playing or something of the sort. You need a stable personality. You need a temperament that neither derives great pleasure from being with the crowd or against the crowd, because this is not a business where you take polls. It's a business where you think. And Ben Graham would say that you're not right or wrong because 1,000 people agree with you. And you're not right or wrong because 1,000 people disagree with you. You're right because your facts and your reasoning are right.
Buffett is basically saying here, you don't need a certain qualification or level of intelligence to be a great investor. You just need to have a level head, stick to your own investment strategy, and not be influenced by others. There is a reason why Warren Buffett lives all the way out in Nebraska and not in New York. It's to avoid the market hysteria.
Warren, what do you do that's different than 90% of the money managers who are in the market?
Certainly most of the professional investors focus on what the stock is likely to do in the next year or two, and they have all kinds of arcane methods of approaching that, but they do not really think of themselves as owning a piece of a business. The real test of whether you're investing from a value standpoint or not is whether you care whether the stock market is open tomorrow. If you're making a good investment in a security, it shouldn't bother you if they close down the stock market for 5 years.
Professional money managers are often incentivized to realize short-term gains. When they have a good year, they can go out and attract more investors willing to stump up cash. A great amount of funds under management is a larger pool to charge a proportional management fee to. 1% of $10 million is a hell of a lot better than 1% on just $1 million. Buffett's mentor, Benjamin Graham, who was mentioned earlier in the interview, has a great quote that goes, "In the short term, the market is a voting machine. In the long run, it's a weighing machine." Buffett compares money managers to the voters, buying and selling stock on rumor, news, and speculation, without regard for the underlying business fundamentals driving intrinsic value. Buffett takes a longer-term view, believing the market will eventually correct itself, with the stock price reflecting the company's intrinsic value.
All the ticker tells me is the price. And I can look at the price occasionally to see whether the price is outlandishly cheap or outlandishly high. But prices don't tell me anything about a business. Business business figures themselves tell me something about a business, but the price of a stock doesn't tell me anything about a business. I would rather value a stock or a business first and not even know the price, so that I'm not influenced by the price in establishing my valuation, and then look at the price later to see whether it's way out of line with what my value is.
Many value investors, such as Buffett, read company annual reports from the back, not the front. Here is an example. Fletcher Building is struggling right now. Their stock is near their all-time low, but you wouldn't know it if you read their annual report. The front has nice photos, nice stories, but it's all marketing nonsense. When you read from the back, that's where the financials are kept. That tells the real story. The company has flat revenue, negative profitability, and their assets shrunk while debts rose. Buffett lets the numbers do the talking, not the market voting machine.
So Buffett chose to stay in this world, Omaha, Nebraska, where corn grows just minutes from downtown. Now, Omaha is a nice town, but nobody claims it's a world financial center. Here, the only thundering herd is actually on 4 feet. Don't you find Omaha a little bit off the beaten track for the investment world?
Well, believe it or not, we get mail here, and we get periodicals, and we get all the facts needed to make decisions. And unlike Wall Street, you'll notice we don't have 50 people coming up and whispering in our ear that we should be doing this or that this afternoon.
You appreciate the lack of stimulation here?
I like the lack of stimulation. We get facts, not stimulation here.
How can you stay away from Wall Street?
Well, if I were on Wall Street, I'd probably be a lot poorer. You get overstimulated in Wall Street, and you hear lots of things, and you may shorten your focus, and a short focus is not conducive to long profits. And here I can just focus on what businesses are worth, and I don't need to be in Washington to figure out what the Washington Post newspaper is worth, and I don't need to be in New York to figure out what some other company is worth. It's simply an intellectual process. And the less static there is in that intellectual process, really the better off you are.
This is what Buffett was alluding to earlier in the interview, but a bit more forward. Living in Nebraska allows Buffett to focus on his investment strategy and not be swayed by others. He is the world's wealthiest investor, so it obviously has worked very well for him to be removed from Wall Street.
What is the intellectual process?
The intellectual process is defining your area of competence in valuing businesses, and then within that area of competence, finding whatever sells at the cheapest price in relation to value. And there are all kinds of things I'm not competent to value.
Buffett advocates here for only investing in what you know. For example, if you're a medical doctor, you obviously have a deep understanding of the healthcare space. That is your comparative advantage when it comes to investing, as you live and breathe the healthcare sector. You know the business models, the competitors, the new technology affecting the sector, its tailwinds and headwinds, all of these factors which help determine a healthcare company's intrinsic value. You can only determine the value of what you understand.
But there are a few that I am competent to value.
Have you ever bought a technology company?
No, I really haven't.
In 30 years of investing, not one?
I haven't understood any of them.
So you haven't ever owned, for example, IBM? Which
Never owned IBM. Marvelous
great
company. I mean, a sensational company, but I haven't owned IBM.
And so here is this technological revolution going on, and you're not going to be a participant.
Gone right past me.
Is that all right with you?
It's okay with me. I don't have to make money in every game. I mean, I don't know what cocoa beans are going to do. There are all kinds of things I don't know about, and that may be too bad. But why should I know all about them? I haven't worked that hard on them.
Buffett illustrates his earlier point that despite the market hysteria over technology stocks in 1985, when the interview was taken, he wasn't fazed. He only invests in what he understands, and at the time he didn't understand it. In the year 2000, the dot-com bubble crashed, which saw the Nasdaq exchange fall 78% from its peak. Had Warren Buffett been swept up in the craze, he would have broken his one rule, to not lose money.
In the securities business, you literally every day have thousands of the major American corporations offered to you at a price that changes daily. And you don't have to make any decisions. You have to make, nothing is forced upon you. So there are no called strikes in the business. The pitcher just stands there and throws balls at you. And if you're playing real baseball and it's between the knees and the shoulders, you either swing or you get a strike called on you. If you get too many called on you, you're out. In the securities business, you sit there and they throw U.S. Steel at 25 and they throw General Motors at 68, and you don't have to swing at any of them. They may be wonderful pitches to swing at, but if you don't know enough, you don't have to swing. And you can sit there and watch thousands of pitches, and finally you get one right there where you want it, something that you understand, and then you swing. And
so you might not swing for 6 months.
You might not swing for 2 years.
Isn't that boring?
It would bore most people, and certainly boredom is a problem with most professional money managers. If they try to sit out an inning or two, not only do they get somewhat antsy, but their clients will start yelling, "Swing, you bum," from the stands, and that's very tough for people to do.
This is a great piece from Warren. As a stock investor, you're under no obligation to rush into anything you aren't fully sure of. Sure, they might make money, but Buffett is the tortoise that beats the hare by only striking when he gets the perfect opportunity. Buffett still follows this same philosophy, with Berkshire Hathaway sitting on over $300 million of cash at the time this video is made. Simply, he hasn't had the right pitch to swing at. And as he reiterates, money managers can't sit still, so they tend to engage in the short-run voting machine and following market hysteria.
Warren, your approach seems so simple. Why doesn't everybody do it?
Well, I think partly because it is so simple. That the academics, for example, focus on all kinds of variables. Partly because
by academics, you mean professors of
right,
finance?
Yeah, the data's there.
In business school?
Sure, and the data's there. So they focus on whether if you buy stocks on Tuesday and sell them on Friday, you're better off, or if you buy them in election years and sell them in other years, you're better off, or if you buy small companies. There are all these variables because the data are there, and they've learned how to manipulate data. And as a friend of mine says, to a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And once you have these skills, you just are dying to utilize them in some way, but they aren't important. If I were being asked to participate in a business opportunity, would it make any difference to me whether I bought it on a Tuesday or a Saturday or an election year or something? It's not what a businessman thinks about in buying businesses. So why think about it when buying stocks? Because stocks are just pieces of businesses.
Warren doesn't get influenced by such short-term market dynamics. He is investing in actual businesses that transact, hire, grow, and generate recurring profits. Whether a stock's price methodically goes up or down is a matter of academic exploration and is of no interest to him as an investor. I really enjoyed this interview with Warren. It is just a 7-minute video, but it covers all the bases of how to become a value investor. Always remember that you're not buying a piece of paper that goes up and down, you're buying a portion of a real business. Understand what you know and what you don't know. Come to your own conclusion on what a company's value is. Take your time with the decision, and if you do all of that right, you should preserve and grow your capital over the long run. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe down below to see more content just like this. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to catching you on the next one. Cheers.